I was actually just in China for 10 days a week or so ago, and I think there are a couple of points that we should note. One, Trump wants to bring jobs into the United States. Well, China is a growing and increasingly large investor in the United States. So he's got a dilemma there. On one hand, he's concerned about Chinese investment in the U.S., and a number of members of Congress have expressed concern. On the other hand, Chinese investment does create jobs here. Obviously, there's Chinese competition in the United States market. We've seen this over the course of years. Trump clearly, and his advisors around him clearly, have some idea about taking a tougher line on trade with China, which Trump expressed during the elections. The question is that a negotiating tactic? Does he actually plan to do this unilaterally? What are the Chinese going to do if the United States does take such actions? And what will be the impact on markets? We haven't really talked so much about that, but a big trade war between China and the U.S. would affect both countries, but have a major effect on financial markets. There are a lot of things that I think the Trump people ought to think about very carefully before they take action. They can use it tactically, and they might, but they ought to think through the implications, what you do on day 2, day 3, and day 4, and what the Chinese do in response. The Chinese are not a small economy, and they have consequential things they can do.
Can you just elaborate, Bob? I mean, you're the expert here. What does a potential trade war between the U.S. and China look like, and who has the upper hand?
Well, I think in the end, both sides are going to be disrupted if there were a trade war. The fact is that on trade, we talk about checks and balances in the United States. In fact, the Congress over the years, since the early part of the last century, has given the president a wide degree of authority and discretion to impose trade barriers of various sorts for various reasons. So the president could decide that the trade imbalance requires him or induces him to take some tough protective action, that he will take action to restrict Chinese investment in the United States if Chinese restrictions continue on certain American investments. He could do a wide range of things. It's very hard to predict now. He's said tough things during the campaign. What he's planning to do actually is very unclear. Is he planning to negotiate a tough deal with the Chinese and simply dangle these threats in the background, or is he actually planning to unilaterally use them and then say, well, come and negotiate with me? In any case, the consequences are, first of all, a lot of importers, particularly Walmarts and others, buy a lot of Chinese goods because Americans buy them and they get them cheaper on the shelves of these stores. What happens to the price of those items? What happens to the large number of American companies that are selling in China and whose profits depend heavily on it? It's too early to predict with any precision, but it is not too early to predict that if you really were to get into a trade war with threats on trade, on investment, then you would have a lot of disruption. I would say that the cautious and the right strategy for the moment is think through very carefully what you're planning to do. Don't do it by tweets, but have your negotiators and the Chinese sit down and try to work these things out before you take action. The Chinese are not particularly keen on being threatened and probably are going to be very reluctant to act under an overt threat or a particular series of actions. If he wants to be tough on China, he should talk to the Chinese in a negotiating environment and not do it through tweets.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.